Welcome back to the Shankly Sessions, the Liverpool podcast we bring you each and every week, delivering all the latest news, opinion, gossip, everything coming out of the club. You will find it in this one-stop shop, Shankly Sessions, on the Dynamo Podcast Network on YouTube. Head over there, smash that subscribe and bell notification button. Audio versions of the show can be found through Anchor. You'll get them on Spotify, Podbean, iTunes, wherever you pick up audio versions of the show, you will find the Dynamo Podcast Network. Go in there, search the upper tier, search Shankly Sessions, and you will get your latest Liverpool shows. Joining me back again this week, Dean Fitz. How are we doing, Dean?
Great to be back, my man. Great to be back talking all things Liverpool and vent my frustration towards our extremely generous owners and plead to Jordan Henderson, please don't go. Don't go.
Absolutely. Well, if you'd like to contact the show, of course, you can always leave your comments down below in the YouTube video. But if you'd like to contact us directly, you'll get us on Instagram, the upper tier. You'll get us on Facebook, the upper tier. You'll also get us on Twitter at Sessions Shankly if you want to contact us there for all the latest news, gossip, and opinion. Let's get into this because we've got a packed show this week. There's lots to talk about and not necessarily going to be very enjoyable. Let's kick off some of the news. Reds play out a couple of draws there against Wacker Innsbruck and also Stuttgart over in Austria during the camp. Not a whole lot to get excited about these preseason friendlies, really. Just trying out different players. Obviously waiting on a number of players to return from international duty, both from the Euros and also from the Copa America. But good to see the guys getting game time, and certainly looking at some of the videos coming out from the camp. Awesome to see the likes of Virgil back there and Gomez and players like that and all. Trent as well back looking the business. So very, very encouraging for the start of the season to see these guys all on the one pitch again, playing together.
Brilliant. Couple of standout performances. The three games, Wacker Innsbruck, Stuttgart, and then yesterday evening's game with Mainz or whatever way you pronounce it. Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain playing as a number 9. Doesn't look like we're going to be spending much money, but what's coming out of the club, I've been following Pep's diary regarding the training session and stuff like that. Seems to be really, really putting in a shift. I reckon he was one of the boys that was told, like, you need to book your train, or, we could be looking to make a few bob off you. He's kind of not stepped up as such. It's pre-season, it's getting the legs moving. He had injury problems himself, but, the word coming out of the club from pre-season that he's kind of stepped up, which is great, because I do like Ox. I just think he's kind of underperformed since that terrible injury he had that kind of ruined him out for a season. Minamino been doing relatively well. Apparently he's being told that he's staying. So, I did say a few weeks ago I'd love him to stay, and I'd pray that he settles, has some sort of impact. He is a good player. We've seen him playing live at Anfield. He's a very good player. Just I want to touch on the young lads in the squad that with Tyler Morton, Coy Gordon, Leighton Clarkson, Jake Kane, and Owen Beck. These lads have very, very bright futures. Coy Gordon, he's going to be an exceptional player. Anyone that hasn't seen any of the pre-season games, again, they're only pre-season games, and the teams that are playing aren't great shakes. These lads are going out to make a statement. To these guys, these are 16, 17-year-olds. These guys, this is like playing the Champions League final for them. Playing with the first team, with Jurgen Klopp, with the eyes on him, surrounded by Virgil, surrounded by Mo Salah, Sadio Mane. If you can watch the highlights, extended highlights of these games, to anyone that hasn't seen the games, just have a look at the young lads that are coming through. I'm not going to put any great pressure on them, but there's a few lads coming through, and in 5, 6 years, 7 years time, these are going to be first names on the team sheets. There's a bright future for the club with these lads coming through.
Yeah, absolutely. Just a couple of updates. Obviously, with the match coming up against Hertha Berlin, this will probably start to sort of see some sort of more resemblance to the shape of the team and stuff like that as these matches come along. And also just in ticket news as well, Liverpool confirmed 2 friendlies in Anfield before the start of the season, both on the 8th and 9th of August, against Athletic Bilbao and also against Osasuna. And those tickets are on sale at the moment, both for ticket holders and members at the moment. General sale, if there's any tickets left over, will go on sale on Monday. I think the adult tickets are around £26 or something like that. But it'd be great. I'm hoping to be over there for both those games. So I'll do a couple of podcasts while I'm over there for both those.
Just on that there, as you just heard Niall saying, he's hoping to be there. I've just become a father, so funds are tight. So if anybody wants to donate to my fund to go and help Niall with those podcasts, we can set up a GoFundMe page. It will go directly into my back pocket, so all donations will be accepted. No, one thing I will say about that, it's great that the club are actually doing that, because I get the feeling that from these two games, Niall, it won't be an 11 for 45 minutes and 11 for 45 minutes. The two games are on consecutive days. On the Friday night of that weekend as well, Jamie Webster is playing a gig in Liverpool as well. So for fans, it's for fans that haven't been to Anfield in a long time, this is going to be a great weekend for the club as a whole, because the Jamie Webster gig, I believe on Saturday the TIA Hotel are throwing on something as well. I think they're going to be showing some old games. They're going to have something going on anyway, but the game on a Sunday afternoon, and then the Monday evening, it's going to be a great weekend in Liverpool.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's the week before the season starts as well, so I can imagine that the buzz is going to be electric.
And I think you also have the Community Shield that weekend as well, haven't you?
What's that?
You know, that little sort of
the frisbee thing. I know,
yeah. That trophy that some teams still count and stuff like that.
Gilby Sigerson is throwing at the kids, I heard, this weekend.
Who knows? Let's move on. Jurgen Klopp, obviously, Joe Gomez, his progress is positive and he's getting closer. This is great news for Joe Gomez.
Brilliant news. He was outstanding before that injury. When Virgil came in and he was playing beside Joe Gomez took it to another level. It's just unfortunate that the injuries came along when they did. Seeing a few things on I'm not on social media. I just kind of follow the hashtag LFC Twitter buzz through pre-season. And there's a lot of fans getting on. The guy has been out for a year with a possible career-ending injury, and was straight into intense training. He obviously, it was expected. He got some swelling around the knee, and I got some fans. I came across comments saying, "Get rid of him," and he's no good for the club. And I was like, Jesus Christ, if that was Virgil van Dijk, would people be saying, "Bin him, get rid of him"? Give the lad a break. He's still young. And I seen it in him when he first came in beside Virgil van Dijk that that's a potential partnership for the future. One thing I've read this week though as well is he's actually going to be the cover right back for Trent going into the season. Now obviously he will be available for centre back position, but I believe that the three for selection at centre back will be Matip, Konate and Van Dijk, and Gomez will be probably eased back in the right back role to kind of take the burden off Trent as well, who had that injury coming towards the end of the season.
Yeah, certainly interesting. Gives us plenty of options at the back. Neco Williams and Harry Wilson rejoined the squad in Austria.
Yeah, great to have any of the boys back, really. Sad news is that Harry Wilson looks like he could be gone in the next 24 hours. Looks like Fulham have decided to they've agreed to put the £10 million up front instead of over, I think, 2 or 3 years. So with Liverpool looking to kind of not clear out Deadwood, because I wouldn't necessarily look at him as Deadwood. He never really got a chance. So it was kind of like the Marco Grujic situation. He never really got a chance, and he is a decent player, and he done it in the Championship. He done it with Bournemouth in the Premiership. So look, it is what it is. I hope everything works out well for him. But yeah, it was good to see him coming over though. You seen the big happy head in the two of them coming into training, and then within 2 days it was announced that he'd be leaving shortly. So yeah, all the best to the boys in the future, because apparently there's talk now that Nico Williams wants to leave as well and get regular first team football. So look, all the best to the boys.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're getting to that age now where they need to make a decision on their futures, and if their future isn't at Liverpool, all the best to them. We hope they do well and they're successful.
You don't want to be a Jesse Lingard, 29 years of age and having potential, do you?
No. And then some information coming out from the camp as well. Obviously, you touched on it with Oxlade playing at number 9 at the moment pre-season. Apparently, he's banging in worldies as well. He turns around, Bobby, be careful. To Bobby Firmino. But it's good to see the lads buzzing off each other. Though, isn't it? Like it means there's a lot of positivity there,
What you just touched on there, it's great to see the boys buzzing again. I've said it, but like people that listen to the podcast are sick of me talking about the End of the Storm documentary. a winning team starts with the bond in the squad, and any videos, the inside training videos we've seen from pre-season, that atmosphere seems to be back. Please tell me you've seen the video of Naby Keita on the boat with the boys being rocked back and forth, and he can't swim. It's the best thing I've ever seen. Naby.
Brilliant.
It puts a smile on your face, like we're devoted to the club. So stuff like that makes my day. Like you feel like you're part of it, don't you? You just wish you were there.
Yeah. Absolutely. And also Trent coming out saying he feels fit and ready to play. I seen a couple of videos coming out of the camp from Trent the other day. He smashed the ball into the bottom corner from about 20 yards out with the outside of his foot, and it looked like a quality shot.
Well, if they're not going to spend money on the players that we want, throw Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain up as a striker. See, you can Trent play up there as well. We have to try these things out. If you're not going to go out and buy the names, if these lads have the potential, and Trent is banging in goals like that in training, I'm all for testing them out up there.
Absolutely. So now, of course, from the joy and the fun and the smiles of covering the pre-season and the friendlies and all that kind of stuff, we have to move into transfers, which is probably going to change the mood slightly on the podcast. And there's nowhere to start in terms of transfers than Jordan Henderson. News coming out this week. Contract talks have stalled. 2 years to go on the contract. Chap is 31. Talk that he might have to walk away. Arsenal waiting in the wings, as I'd imagine a number of other clubs would be as well.
I'm not fucking leaving.
Wolf of Wall Street, yeah. But yeah, it's I don't know. You see, I'm in kind of like, I try and trust the process, and I have to trust Klopp. But again, as you mentioned at times, how involved is he? But I'd imagine he'd be focal to that kind of a decision at that level in terms of a changing of his captain potentially. You know what I mean? And I just think something tells me it's a lot of hot air about nothing. Another thing tells me that it could be very real, because this has leaked out, and Liverpool generally are very good at keeping things under wraps. And especially at that level where you're talking about a guy who's in that inner circle at Liverpool in terms of the top guys. Also the club captain, also has done all the charity work, all the other work, also has gone through a tough time with the dad, also gone through a tough time of trying to fit in when Gerrard left and becoming the captain, and gone through the stuff where Rodgers wanted to sell him, and this deal with Clint Dempsey. Like, he's gone through a lot, the kid has, you know what I mean? But we find ourselves at a point where, and we've seen it for many years at Manchester United with Alex Ferguson as well, there is times where you have to be ruthless, and there is times where you have to turn around and go, no, we don't think you're that, we think you're this. What do you think? Are you happy? Are you not happy? Is this where it should be? And if it's not, and they can't come to an agreement, and he's not happy, then those hard decisions have to be made, as tough as they are. And I mean, let's be honest here, we were both very controversial when it comes to Jordan Henderson until recent years and stuff like that. We weren't exactly sold on him. So, I mean, what you're thinking?
First off, it literally came out of the blue. It was such a shock to hear the news. It never even crossed my mind, because on the 19th of July, 5 days ago, before all this broke, the talk was that he was almost set to sign the new contract to end his career at Liverpool. And then within 24 hours, it broke. And I was like, this is just all smoke from nothing. It just came out of the blue, and could be just somebody with too much time in their hands, like looking to store the pot. And then the Athletic came out, James Pearce came out, and I sent you the screenshot of that. I was like, there's big trouble. Look, the way I'm looking at it is, do we want Jordan Henderson to leave? No. For me, it's a no-brainer that he ends his career. And for me, it's a no-brainer that he ends his career at Liverpool. Do I agree with some of the things you're saying? Definitely. You're kind of the calm to the madness of me and you as Liverpool fans. I'm the very focal one, whereas you're the one that takes the deep breath. You sit back and kind of iron out the creases and say, well, okay, but this is going to happen, but this could be the reason behind it. Whereas I just jump in with my head swinging elbows and just, I'm the madness, you're the calmness. When the more I looked into it, and I always kind of just point the finger at FSG, because I believe that I understand everything that you've said. Again, when you say all these things to me, I take a deep breath and I sit back and I have a think, like, all right, cool, he's making sense. I'm more of a say first, think afterwards. When all this broke, straight away I pointed the finger at FSG, and I was thinking to myself, the same thing happened with Genie Wijnaldum, and it's going down the exact same route with Jordan Henderson. Then you're looking at the Virgil van Dijk is getting on. Mo Salah is getting on. Sadio Mane is getting on. Like, lads are all getting on in the squad. You know what I mean? My worry is, Niall, is what happens when Mo Salah, like, the talk is now that they're really, really pushing to get his deal done. But the numbers that his camp think that he deserves, in my opinion, does deserve for the seasons that he's had in the last 4 or 5 years, the club won't go anywhere near what he wants. You know, is it a case of what happens when these 3 or 4 players get to that age and it comes to new contract time? You can't allow, because what'll happen is it was Genie first, then it'll be Jordan, then it'll be someone after him, and it just becomes like a domino effect, you know what I mean? And you're looking at the other teams around us. I know FSG are business savvy, and, you know, it's not all just go out and spend everything you have and take the risk, and it might not work out success-wise and what have you. That was my main concern when I looked at it. And as you said, we were overly critical of Jordan Henderson. We got back to that night in Carragher's bar when he was coming on, we're chasing the league title, and two of us looked at each other like, not for a fucking league title, he's bringing him on. And ever since that game, he's been the backbone of the team. He's literally dug us out of a hole so many times. It's almost Steven Gerrard-esque. Now, he doesn't come up with the goals or the assists, but he drags people out of a fucking bunker and says, get up on the front line with me. We're all in this together. And so many times it's fucking worked. You touched on it, what's going on with his father. You know, he could have left the club and what have you. But it all boils down to this now. We're at this moment in time, and I don't want him to leave. I just see it as, if he goes, you have to look at other people in the squad that are thinking to themselves, what is actually going on here? Do they not want success? He's their leader. Like, Genie is gone. We talked about there's 4. Virgil talks about there's Virgil, Genie, Milner, and Henderson. They're the 4 go-to guys in the squad. They were the leaders. They were the lads that everyone's turned to. Genie's gone. Now we could be looking at Henderson going, and then you Milner possibly his last season, and then you're down to Virgil. And then it'll come to a time, where's the leaders in the Liverpool squad? I think it's just because it was so shocking to me, Niall, that, and everything is still up in arms, and Henderson's still on his break. I think I just want clarity over the situation. Obviously, Jurgen's being quiet about it. He's not going to come out and start fucking throwing his toys out of pram, because that's when if he has got a problem with this, if he comes out and says one thing in one interview about how he's not happy with the situation, then the panic button is pressed, because everybody's going to be up in arms then, and then you have major problems in the squad, with the fan base, with the owners.
Yeah, well, I don't think, look, let's be clear about this and put this out here. I don't think any Liverpool fan wants Jordan Henderson to leave. And I think every Liverpool fan wants Jordan Henderson to be there, to be captain, to be happy, to be playing well, to bring more success, to inspire and motivate that team the way he does and stuff like that. But then the flip side of that is, and if you take it in its bare bones, if you like, you have a player here who's 31, who plays in a position which demands a certain amount of physicality that can only go on for so long. He has 2 years left on his current contract, which he signed. And we always say that sort of 27, 28 to 33 is the peak of your contract when you're signing, no matter what player you are. That's not your last chance saloon, but your last chance saloon at a big contract. So he signed this contract. He was happy with this contract. There's 2 years to go. So if you're looking from a business point of view, and I know fans don't like hearing a business point of view, but all this is related to business at the end of the day, in terms of the functioning of the club. And we should know better than most fans in terms of running a business, because we stood on the steps of a court and nearly went out of business with Gillette and Hicks. So we should understand this, if any fan base should understand it. Not dissimilar to Leeds. You know what I mean? Yeah. So if you look at this, he's 2 years to go on his contract. They've obviously put something in place and offered him something to end his career there. That's obviously not being appealing to him. And his people have come out and obviously expressed that, because obviously FSG and Liverpool wouldn't be leaking this to the media, because it doesn't make them look good. So it has to be Henderson's people who has leaked this out. Okay. Yeah. So he's looking for a better deal. And the way he's looking for a better deal is to gather that wave of, you know, sympathy, fan base, whatever you want to call it, to go, how can you let this guy go? Like what happened with the European Super League and the fan base, right? And I get that. And I fully get that. But on the flip side of that, is Jordan Henderson, our midfield, going to be the answer when he's 34, 35, 36? And if he isn't, should we be letting that contract run down, that he potentially leaves on a free, which what happened with Genie? Or should we be looking at that contract now and saying, there's 2 years to go, we've offered you this contract. If you don't want to finish a career here, if this contract isn't acceptable to you, it's time to move on. And we should be potentially cashing in on Jordan Henderson for 25 or 30 million or whatever we think we'd get for him, and use that 30 million to reinvigorate our midfield with the likes of a Saul Niguez or a Yuri Tillemans, or, you know, something new, young and fresh. Okay. And this is the recycle of life. We talk about it, even me and you are pro wrestling fans. What do they say about pro wrestling fans? You get old, that cog comes out, you put a new cog in, and the wheel keeps on spinning. That's what happens at Liverpool. Steven Gerrard, who was probably the greatest ever Liverpool player, walked into an office with Brendan Rodgers to be told he'd only be a bit part player and he'd be sitting on the bench a lot more and used sparingly. And Steven Gerrard made the decision to go and head off to the MLS. And this is Steven Gerrard now we're talking about. So these things happen. Now, it doesn't sit well with the fan base. No one wants Jordan Henderson to leave. And it comes out, and as you said, when it comes out first, you're going, what the fuck? This is so shocking. But when you sit back and you look at the elements of it, you have to take into account a number of different factors there. Is anyone going to be happy in 2 years' time if Jordan Henderson leaves on a free? No. And then people will be turning around and going, well, why didn't you do something 2 years ago about it? The other thing is, if Jordan Henderson wants to end his career at Liverpool, you know, what sort of a contract have they offered him? Has it been a contract that they've offered to him that just basically insulted him? Or have they offered him a decent contract? Because he's already there, remember. He has 2 years to go in this contract, which is a decent contract, you know? And I just think sometimes you have to have a little bit of the romance, but a little bit of cutthroat as well, and a little bit of reality. And I think to assess that situation. And Liverpool fans this week are up in arms over this situation. But I think if they do take a step back and they look at what needs to happen there, I think they might come to a bit of a realization that, look, sometimes the club's hand is forced here as well, not just the player, you know. And of course, we don't know the detail of what that contract offer was to end his career. Maybe it was absolutely terrible and it insulted him, you know.
I think it's with him being quiet as well, like, you know what I mean. he's obviously not like discouraged by what has been, because it has to be his camp that have leaked it 100%. He's obviously happy that they've leaked it, because we know from over the years Jordan Henderson is quite vocal. You know what I mean? He's not one of these that if anything is spouted out and it's bullshit, he'd be quick to say that it's bullshit. So obviously there is something behind that. And I think after having time to think and take a step back and listen to the opinions of Paul Gorst, of Dominic King, of James Pearce, of yourself, like, you know what I mean, of fans who do chat sense, what you've said there makes so much sense. We're all about the romance of the game, and especially of Liverpool Football Club. And like, Fabinho was 28 this year. Thiago is just gone 30. Jordan Henderson is 31. Naby Keita is too injury prone. Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain injury prone. Now is the time. That's why I'm kind of up in arms regarding the transfer situation. Is when you talk about the recycle of things, Niall, this is the summer that we have to recycle that midfield. We need to bring in 1 or 2 players who are 22, 23, 24, 25, maybe max 26, because you've got 4 or 5 years in them. But now is the time to do that. Do I want Jordan Henderson to leave? No. Jordan Henderson is a massive part of the club. He kind of epitomises the club on and off the pitch for everything that's gone on for 10 years, realistically. You know, since he came into the club as a kid, to see him grow as a man. We sat here a few weeks ago, we done the 10 years in Jordan Henderson, and, you know, he's fucking part of the family. Do you know what I mean? Now, he wouldn't look at us and say, oh, Jesus, I love them too. He probably listened to a podcast if it was played for him and probably never listened to it again. But, you know, I'm sure he knows the importance of himself to the club, to the fan base, to other clubs outside of him. I'm sure Sunderland fans still reverent of him.
Yeah.
Do I want him to go? No. If he was going to leave, do I want him to go on a free? No. I think it's just the realization that he could go this summer, and as I said, it's just a shock of him, Niall, because we sat here a few weeks ago and done 10 years of Jordan Henderson, and then boom, he could be leaving this summer. It's just a shock, Niall. It took everybody surprised because it just literally came out of the blue.
Well, here's a question for you then, and we'll move on to it because it's a point that's coming up, okay? Paul Joyce has reported in the Times that Liverpool at the moment are working on contracts at the moment for Mo Salah, Alisson, Fabinho, and Virgil van Dijk. And obviously they've been working on a contract for Jordan Henderson to finish his career there as well.
Yeah.
If you take those 5 players, knowing what you know, and taking everything into account, where does Jordan Henderson sit in that list of 5 players in terms of the importance of re-signing, in terms of what all those players bring?
Honestly?
Yeah.
Probably bottom of the list.
Okay. So then that's where I'm talking about, where does the romance meet the reality? And in terms of that, so what I'm looking at there at the moment, would Liverpool fans be very happy if they lost Mo Salah but they kept Jordan Henderson? Would Liverpool fans be happy if they lost Virgil van Dijk and they kept Jordan Henderson? So like you have to put everything structurally in place. You know what I mean? Henderson has 2 years to run on his contract. When they signed that contract, Liverpool as a club would believe that he would honour that contract. He was paid handsomely for it. It was a good contract. He agreed. He signed it. He was happy. Okay. These other contracts that are coming up, I think, are pivotal to Liverpool's success in the future.
These are going to make or break. If out of those 5 names, well, the 4 names, Salah, Alisson, Fabinho, Van Dijk, those 4 sign new long-term deals, then you have players outside of the club looking and saying, right, well, they're devoting their future to the club. I want to be part of that. As you said, if you took Salah out of that, say Salah turned around now in 2 or 3 weeks and says, nah, I'm out here, I want to go to Real Madrid or PSG or whatever. Can you imagine the panic?
Exactly.
You have no replacement coming in. There's no one coming in. If Mo Salah left in 2 or 3 weeks, say Mo Salah left before the season started and we signed Jared Bowen. Now, I'm not saying he's the worst player under the sun. Can you imagine the backlash if 100%. Mo Salah left?
100%. So if you think about the club, with Jordan still having 2 years to run on his contract, that's where the priority has to be. It has to be with those 4 guys. Okay. And that's not devaluing Jordan Henderson in any way.
No. But that's the backbone of the team.
But the reality, as you said as well, that inner circle there, the go-to guys, we've lost Genie. We could potentially lose Jordan. Milner could move on, stuff like that. It's time now for the new breed to come in. It's time for Trent to go into that loop and be a leader and a guy that can go to Robbo. These guys can easily step up into that role and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Now, I understand the influence that Jordan Henderson has on the club and on the pitch with the players. And, you know, he bleeds Liverpool, if you like. I get it. He gets the community, gets all that kind of stuff. And all that other stuff that he brings is without question. And without question, with Jordan Henderson on the pitch, Liverpool, without question, Jordan Henderson on the pitch makes Liverpool a better player and a driving force. But, I mean, who's to say if those 4 guys all signed their long-term contracts, we still potentially have Jordan Henderson there for 2 years. We don't have to sell him. He's under contract. And let's suppose we bring in a Sol Niguez or a Yuri Tillemans to learn off Jordan Henderson. You know what I mean? And
or a Sol Niguez.
Yeah, or a Sol Niguez or whatever who comes into the midfield. But I just think we need to be careful just sometimes on how we trigger react to these things at times. Like that, to me, I don't believe Jordan Henderson is going anywhere. I
No,
believe this.
I genuinely think that he'll never leave. I think if he does leave, it'll be on a free. I don't think Jurgen Klopp. The talk is in 2 years, Jurgen Klopp is going to go. I believe if we were to win a Premier League next year, I do believe he'd sign an extension. I think if Liverpool were to have a bad season, knock on wood, we don't. I think he'll be looking at a time where he probably needs to be recycled, and he's taking the team as far as it can go. This upcoming season is going to be pivotal to us. The only time I see Jordan Henderson leaving is on a free. I don't. As long as Jurgen Klopp is there, I don't think Jurgen Klopp, regardless of who he brings in midfield, I don't think Jurgen Klopp. I think he'd be more than happy to keep Jordan Henderson knowing he's going on a free than he would have with Gini Wijnaldum. I think Gini Wijnaldum played as much as he did last season because how bare the squad was regarding injuries. I believe if we had a fully fit squad, i.e. two first choice centre backs, and Fabinho and Henderson playing in the middle of the park, I don't think we would have seen Gini starting as many games as he did, because it goes against Jurgen Klopp's ethos of if you don't want to be here, you won't be here. Simple as that. And I do believe that's the only reason that Gini played so much, is because the squad was down to its bare bones. Regarding Jordan Henderson, I'm sure that as soon as it gets a chance, he's going to have a long meeting with Jurgen Klopp. They're joined at the hip. That's a father and son relationship.
Yeah.
And I do believe that it will be ironed out. Will he sign a new contract? We don't know. But do I think he'll leave? No.
Yeah. That's my thinking at the moment. And that everything that we spoke about there is in no way devaluing what Jordan Henderson brings to Liverpool Football Club, without a shadow of a doubt. And no one wants him to leave. We've already touched on Jared Bowen. We already mentioned Grudge has gone on a permanent transfer to Porto. We've touched on obviously the contracts of Alisson, Fabinho, Van Dijk, and Salah. Danny Mills coming out this week saying that Harry Kane would be a better fit for Liverpool. That all sounds great till you hear 160 million, and then it's no thank you.
I don't ever take notice of what Danny Mills has to say when it comes to football. I have no time for the man. Whenever he does talk, he just talks bollocks. Regarding Harry Kane, if Liverpool went down and spent 160 million for Harry Kane and broke our whole wage structure and gave him 400 grand a week, I think I'd take up playing fucking bowls or something and never watch football again. No, thank you.
I think the least of our worries would be Jordan Henderson at that stage, wouldn't it?
Harry Kane. I don't care how much money Man City has. Spending 160 million on. Why? I'll just leave it at this. What you said. If you're willing to spend 160 million for Harry Kane and give him 400 grand a week, you might as well go the whole hog and buy Haaland. I don't get it. I really don't get it. Harry Kane is not going to make Man City better. I think the two dodgy ankles. Yeah, if Man City are looking to the future, it's Haaland. It's just you're hitting the bullseye with Haaland. He's only a kid. You've got 10 years there of just scoring goals for fun. I think he'll score goals wherever he goes. But yeah, when it comes to Danny Mills comes on to tell you a ton on the news for the deaf without the subtitles and try and make sense of what they're doing. Fuck off. Will you make?
Something I want to touch on here, it's not necessarily Liverpool related, but there's obviously a connection there. Obviously, Dortmund are bringing in Daniel Malin, obviously with the switch from Sancho to United. Fabrizio Romano reported this week. So obviously, we were heavily linked with Daniel Malin for a while. So it's nice just to mention it there, Also, Fabrizio Romano reporting that Liverpool have no chance of signing Nicolo Barella this summer. Which probably means we're not in for him, let's be honest here, you know what I mean? There's been a lot of talk.
Can I just say, regarding Fabrizio Romano, I do love when he comes out with "Here we go." But anytime he mentions Liverpool lately, it's have no chance of signing or will not be signing, and then he has the name of the player. Just because you mentioned Nico Barella, because he's Italian, just in the last couple of minutes is breaking news from Repubblica in Italy that Juventus have torn down. Now take this with a pinch of salt because there's no way this happened. A 95 million euro bid for Chiesa. Do you believe Liverpool bid 95 million for Chiesa?
No.
Yeah, no, we leave that.
But you know something. Again, because we've been so quiet in the market and we've been linked with everyone, it wouldn't surprise me at all if they bring in a big name
I do
and
think
blow money.
I think we'll bring in a name, and I think it's going to be another Fabinho job that'll be just out of blue. We've nothing, we know nothing about it. When I say a big name, it's not going to be 70, 80, 90 million.
Mm.
Like, I'm just using this as an example. I don't know whether we're going to sign him or not. I'm kind of giving up hope on the names that we talked about recently. If Son Agares was announced, that for me is a big name. But is the money big? No, not in terms of what's being thrown around nowadays. I do think we're going to sign with the money that's going to come in. Harry Wilson looks like he's going to go. There's a few more players on the chopping board. Shaqiri could possibly be going. Origi could possibly be going. There's talk that there could be £70 million generated from sales this summer. So do I think we'll spend money? Yes. I'm praying we spend money, but yeah, just I think during the Euros we were linked with anyone that could cross a ball or make a tackle in the middle of the park, weren't we?
Yeah, absolutely. We already touched on O'Wire. We've been linked with him. Le 10 Sport in France have linked us with him. Reports coming in. Again, we spoke about it on the transfer show, but again, could be an interesting signing. I know Arsenal have done an awful lot of work in this. I mean, the guy basically had one leg in the door at the Emirates, so I'm not too sure what's going on there. We've also been linked. I mean, I like this Kessie guy off AC Milan. I think he's a proper baller, has a cardio machine, box to box, non-stop, 90 minutes. I think he could be a real good signer for Liverpool, and I think you would get him relatively cheap. I think he's in the 25 to 30 bracket.
Yeah, I think I read about yesterday. His name never even came into my mind when it came to potential signings so far this summer. And then yesterday I was reading a lot that we have touched base with his camp and AC Milan. I believe that the asking price isn't too big, but I believe that the wage could possibly be about 120, 130k a week. Like you said, he's a machine up front. You know, he's box to box. He's, you know, he's like a cheaper version of Lukaku. You know, I think if he came into Liverpool, I think he'd add more goals to what we have there already. But as you said, he's a machine. Seen him in the Europa League last year, flinging players off the ball like they weren't there, you know, and building on attacks and all. So it's another interesting name to throw into that. Like you said there, the names linked with Kessie, Tielemans, Barella, Damsgaard. Damsgaard is one I'd love to get on. He looks like he's going to be really, really promising. I do think though you're going to get the big names in the European game though now coming out, and you know the lure of Real Madrid or not Barcelona, but you know those said names, you know the exciting European adventure, as they say.
Yeah, or the players that performed well last year in Europe. I mean, anyone that performed well in that Europa League sticks out a mile, and obviously the Champions League as well sticks out a mile. Yeah, and then they're talking about obviously potential exits. I mean, you know, Nat Phillips is one, of course, that we spoke about on the transfer show. Ben Davies, I think, does need a move away, and I think Liverpool should just probably move him on to Celtic and do the right thing, because
what we were talking about it on the transfer show regarding Nat Phillips. For me, the obvious thing to do was get rid of Davis, whether it be on loan or like off the Celtic with a forced option buyback clause or the 10% sell-on clause.
Yeah.
Reece Williams out on loan with the option to buy and then a 10%, you know, sell-on clause or whatever, blah, 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 further down the line. No brainers to keep Nat Phillips.
Yeah.
The only way I see Nat Phillips going is if he sat down with Jurgen and said, look, I've proved to you, I've proved to myself, I've proved a lot of people wrong that I can do this week in, week out. He's the old school. We all love the old school centre backs. You know what I mean? The tackle with the head first. You know, so that's the only way I see Nat Phillips leaving is if he sat down and told Jurgen, look, if a bid comes in and it's worthy of what you think you should take, then let me go. And I'll applaud him for that, because again, I do think he can do it every week, and it'd be sad to see someone like that just sitting on the bench week. Because on the flip side of things, you know, you could have Van Dijk not being as good as he was and losing the yard of pace and needs to be game managed. Same with Matip, same with Gomez, and you'd love to have Nat Phillips coming back in. But then again, on the flip side of things, you could have the set three names coming back in, having the season of their life, and Nat Phillips plays 5 or 6 games all season.
Yeah, I suppose for us as fans, though, one thing that we'd like to see is that the bench becomes more strengthened.
That was always my problem, and I've said that countless times.
So my thinking on it as well is, if you've Reece Williams there, Nat Phillips and Ben Davis, I'm thinking if one of the boys does happen to get injured, touch wood, it doesn't happen, but if they do happen to get injured, Nat Phillips is the boy we want coming on, isn't it?
Yeah,
100%, so
definitely.
So that's the conundrum. And obviously, we touched on Grulich. His deal is obviously done. What you thinking at the moment insofar as the transfer window, the way it's evolving? I mean, obviously, we got Kanate in very quick, and we were thinking, this is Liverpool. Happy days. We're going to get plenty of business done nice and early, have a good pre-season, and be off kicking. Which hasn't really happened. So I know with so many teams looking to rebuild and to sign players and stuff like that, it's a difficult job at the moment convincing players to come and sign. Obviously, we play our cards very close to our chest, so we don't necessarily talk an awful lot about who we sign until we kind of announce them. But would your expectation at the moment? I mean, are you expecting one or two big signings to come in to obviously keep that pace with the likes of a Chelsea or a United or a City who are going after these players?
When we started the Shankly sessions, we talked about the summer, and I was probably one of the most excited Liverpool fans on the sun, because we were starting to hear of names that we were linked with. And the Euro started, and we were linked with X, Y, and Z. And like, if you watch back to previous Shankly session shows, I was nearly jumping out of my fucking skin with excitement about who that we could be signing: Tielemans, Saul, Milinkovic-Savic, Florian Neuhaus. Every one of them has gone kind of
quiet,
nearly torn into ice at the moment. I was also very excited because when we were linked with these names, I was saying to myself that last season, even though we finished the season so well, last season could have been so much worse. It wasn't. Hindsight again, we got Champions League football. We finished third in the league. No one, including me, in January, I was thought that Champions League football was gone, and got Champions League football. I was probably the most excited Liverpool fan under the sun, and then we were linked with all these names. And I was saying Man City and Chelsea need to beware that Liverpool are back next season. Now we're finally jumping on the ship of not going out buying superstars, but buying players that are better than, let's be real, Oxlade-Chamberlain, Origi, Shaqiri, Minamino, like players that opposition are going to be looking at the bench and saying, well, if Sadio Mane is going off and he's coming off, or he's coming on, like, fucking hell, I'm not getting a reprieve here. Or if Mo Salah is coming off, or if Thiago's coming off, Saul is coming on, or vice versa. And now we're 3 weeks away from the season starting, and we're looking at the squad and saying, how are we still in this position? I'm so frustrated, Niall, because as much as FSG saved us from Gillette and Hicks and all, I'm not asking for them to go out and spend 160 million on Harry Kane and 100 million on Jack Grealish and go out and get Kylian Mbappe and let's have all these players in our squad just because we don't want anyone else to have them. I'm asking to go out and, as you said, recycle the squad and have players on the bench who are fresh ideas, fresh legs. Divock Origi he'll be a cult hero for as long as he lives. He should have a statue outside Liverpool for some of the goals that he popped up with. But how often has he done it? How consistent is he? He's not. So that's why when he pops up with these goals, everyone looks and laughs at themselves and says, fucking hell, Divock Origi's at scoring 2 goals against Barcelona. Divock Origi's at the popping up with that header against Everton in the last minute. Divock Origi done this, Divock Origi done that. I'd love to get the opinions of Liverpool fans. If Mo Salah really prayed to whatever God he prays to, was to get injured at the start of the season and was out for 25 games, or got injured in October and missed the whole season, would Liverpool really, really challenge for a league if Divock Origi was leading the line? I don't think so. No, I definitely don't think so. So that's why I'm frustrated, Niall, because these guys have money. Again, as I said, we're not asking for Harry Kane. We're not asking, as much as I'd love Kylian Mbappe. We all know that. We're just asking for fresh ideas. There's young players on the scene now that are coming through that aren't going to cost a lot of money. that are going to take Liverpool to another level. And FSG just seem to be sitting back and thinking to themselves, no, we got Champions League football last year. That's good enough for us. There's still money coming in. The fans are coming back this season. Jurgen's not going to rock the ship. He's not that type of manager. He's not a Jose Mourinho, like, well, I'm not being backed, because when if Jurgen was to throw his toys out of pram now, like we said, like we work under the radar, and I think that's not the frustrating thing, but I think that's the anxiety of things, is that we don't know what's going on. And as I said, I do think we'll sign at least 2 players. I just hope they're worthy of taking us to another level.
So I was supposed to put you on the spot there here with the question then. So if there's 2 players coming in, and obviously it's not going to be Haaland, it may not be Chiesa, and it probably won't be Harry Kane or Jack Grealish. Who are the 2 players that you want?
Saul Niguez and Jeremy Doku.
Okay.
What's yours 2? You can't just throw me under the bus. And I'm only saying those 2 names because they've been 2 of the predominantly linked names. You can obviously go out and you can say, I'd love to have Riyad Mahrez at Man City are kicking them out, but I'm only going off names that we are linked with. The Jared Bowen is an unknown. Look, when Andy Robertson signed, we all were like, what? Andy Robertson, 8 million off a team that just got relegated. He's in the top 4 left backs in football at the moment. If Jared Bowen is coming in, I'd love him to come in, plus 2 other players that are going to push lads on. Jared Bowen coming in, how will he deal with the pressure of playing for a club like Liverpool? Is it going to take him a year like it did with Fabinho and like Robertson? Now, I'm saying that could be the same with Saul Niguez. That could be the same with Jeremy Doku. Every transfer you make is a risk. Yeah. So all I'm saying is, if we got rid of Shaqiri and Origi, I just want players that are going to come in like Saul Niguez, like Jeremy Doku. The Jared Bowen one is such an unknown one, because when James Pearce came out and said he's on the list, it's just not a name that you expect to be linked with a team who's had the success that they've had over the last few years.
Yeah, I'm still looking towards the likes of Yuri Tillemans. I'd like Yuri Tillemans to come in. I think
I'd absolutely love that
for Liverpool, and I'm all in on Kessie. I think Kessie would bring that drive and energy. I don't know whether I'd say we're missing it with Thiago, because with Thiago, it doesn't necessarily tend to be drive and energy. It just tends to be outstanding passing and distribution of the ball. Yeah, but if you're looking at Kessie, those drives forward, and especially those drives forward with that front 3 ahead of him, he put the fear of God in backlines and stuff like that to allow our 3 boys up front do what they do best, which is absolutely.
Here's one for you, because it was mentioned during the week, because he was back on Merseyside, and we mentioned him in the transfer show because of the financial difficulty that Barcelona are in. Philip Coutinho, would he fit back in there?
I mean, look, I think he'd fit back in, because I think he fitted in before, and I think it'd be an interesting story coming back. I don't
think it'd be the players that would have the problem with him. It's building the bridge with the fans again, because the Liverpool fans, they take that as, you stabbed us in the back. And the way he went about it, is he a good player? He still has that quality, Niall. It's just going from Liverpool, being a hero, to going to a club like Barcelona, every player's dream.
Well, let's suppose he comes back, plays in the first game, and bangs in 2 winning goals.
Look, I get his name tattooed on me for it.
His name is going on the new cream jersey, isn't it? But this is like, you know what I mean? I think.
Look, such a conundrum, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes look, many a player has left Liverpool and it's been the wrong move and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So I don't think.
We've seen it countless times.
You know what I mean? And I think, but you look at the situation at Barcelona, which is, we'd probably get him absolutely cut price. You know what I mean, in terms of what we'd have to pay for him. He certainly is talented enough and more than capable of fitting in with the front 3. Certainly will give us another attacking option. I don't think I'd have any problem with him coming back. I understand why players tend to go a certain route to generate a move. It's the move that they want.
There's one other name, Niall, as well there, because, and again, another Barcelona player, and it's not Ousmane Dembele, because I don't rate the guy at all. I think he's very, very overrated. I think the move to Barcelona has ruined his career. He's been linked with a move to England during the week. Now, I do think he'll go back to Atletico Madrid. I'd love Liverpool to take a punt on Antoine Griezmann. I really would. I think the way he plays and how he played at Atletico Madrid, I think he'd fit exactly into the way Liverpool play. I genuinely think, I was thinking about during the week, I love him. I remember watching him when he was with Atletico. I think he's absolutely outstanding. And I think, again, it was a case of going to a club like Barcelona. You know, we've seen it with Fernando Torres leaving Liverpool, you know, cult hero, one of my it wasn't one of my first loves, but, you know, I was heartbroken when he went to Liverpool. And I knew when he went to Chelsea that everyone looked from the outside in at Chelsea, all superstars and chests out and Billy Big Bollocks, and you know, it was all egos there, and it destroyed Fernando Torres. But really, if he's not going back to, it looks like he could go back to Atletico Madrid if this Sol swap kind of takes off again. It's dead in the water at the moment. I'd absolutely love Antoine Griezmann at Liverpool. I just think it just reignite the fire there.
I'm not sure whether his style of play would suit the Premier League. I don't think he would get the time that he needs to do the things he needs to do to make him be the player that he wants to be. And I think he'd go into the Premier League. I think he'd get a right out welcoming party. And I think he might just kind of fizzle out. There's no doubt about it. The player is world class without a shadow of a doubt. But I think when you're moving, even from, you know, that Barcelona situation where you get plenty of time to express yourself, I don't think you get that time. And I think, you know, you can see it when he plays for France. When he plays for France, things are a little bit more rushed. And he's not necessarily that player that you see in La Liga where he has time to do the things he wants to do. Yeah. And if you compare France to, say, the Premier League, I think he'd get even less time because it's hectic in there and in that position that he plays. And I just don't know. I don't think he would suit Liverpool. Now, he may suit a City or he may suit a Chelsea.
I was just going to ask you that. Do you think that's why City were looking at him because of how they play, and they kind of, not saying we can't, but City kind of evolves back into where they can slow the game down and they can slow down the opposition as well. When City get on that run of, say, 10 games where clean sheets, banging goals for fun, and the opposition fears them, and the opposition won't even send out two men to try and win the ball, and it gives their players the time. Like, let's be real, as good as City are, you see in group chats over the season from last year with me, I fucking despise teams that when City play them, it's sit back and just expect a hiding. But yet they go and play Liverpool and just play the high line and just hunt in a pack of wolves and frustrate the life out of you. But yet every week when a team plays Man City, home or away, it's, oh my God, Man City are coming to murder us, so we're just going to let them do what they want with the ball. And then once they score one, they score 5 or 6. You could be right in what you're saying there regarding Griezmann. He would have more time on the ball there. He'd be protected by the players around him at City as well. You know what I mean? They'd allow him to do what he wants to do with the ball. I'm just thinking with my heart here that when I look back to Griezmann when he was at Atletico Madrid, and that's why Barcelona signed him, he was unbelievable in what he did. When I think about when you say it, though, you could be right, which is a shame because you'd love to see these players coming in and working at Liverpool.
Yeah, I mean, you just look at his time at Barcelona where he's there playing with top level players and stuff like that. And I mean, he hasn't been outstanding or amazing or anything, has he? I mean, he left Atletico when they won the league, and then you see him there for France in the Euros, and he's having to run around, he's having to chase games, he's having to hassle players and stuff like that, which doesn't really suit his play at all. His play is him on the ball, not him winning it back. And he had to become that driving force for France in the Euros where he's trying to win the ball back and stuff like that. It's not really his game, you know what I mean? His game is to get on the ball, turn, express himself, make things happen and stuff like that. Yeah. And I just think in the Premier League, especially when you get into those, like with City kind of play like a little bit of a European style. So they get that bit of time. And as you said, teams sit back off them and give them the space to express themselves and play. But if you get into those heated battles and those exchanges in midfield, where you have top teams against each other. I'm thinking like a Liverpool versus Chelsea or a Chelsea versus United or whatever it is, where those midfields, it's a proper war zone and stuff like that. I don't think Griezmann comes out of those situations looking well. I just don't think he does. And that would be my fear, that he comes in, he has all the talent in the world, but the way to play him and not let him express that talent is just to constantly close him down all the time and give him no space. And I think that's the way teams will play him, and he will be taken out of matches. And you'll see it even on some of the teams. If you go back and look at some of the matches in La Liga last season, a lot of teams who started closing Barcelona down a lot quicker and stuff like that were the teams that actually neutralized his threat as a player. And I think with the money that you'd be spending, plus the wages that you'd be spending, I'm just not sure whether it would add up, to be honest.
Yeah, if you look at Barcelona as well, like I love going back and watching. As much as I don't like Pep now, but when he was manager of Barcelona, I absolutely loved what they did. You go back and look at that little golden era, 2007, 8, 9, and look at Barcelona now. It's hard to imagine that that's actually the same. Obviously not the same team because players have moved on, but same ethos of the team and all. It's just polar opposites.
Yeah, but I mean, you look at even the recent decisions. You've Luis Suarez moving out and Griezmann coming in. Like, there's no comparable there.
No, that's
you know what I mean.
You like, just makes no sense. That Luis Suarez, allowing him to go to Atletico Madrid could be one of the most bizarre transfer decisions in recent football history. I can't get me. If he'd have stayed at Barcelona, they probably would have won the league, because you look at the last 3 or 4 games, he couldn't score goals, and he popped up with the goals for Atletico to get those last minute wins. It was literally down to, that's why Barcelona lost the league. They didn't have someone to score the goals, and that's why Atletico won the league, because they had Luis Suarez. It's baffling. Nearly as baffling as Billy Gilmore going to Norwich.
Yeah, absolutely. And we did call it on the show, even though we thought it was a joke, but it turned out to be real. Well, listen, look, a pleasure as always jumping on and talking.
Yeah, really enjoyed that one. That was a really good one. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, no, it's look, we could be talking next week about 2 world-class signings that we make during the week. Who knows what's going to happen?
Kylian Mbappe.
This is the roller coaster ride of being a fan.
I've been a Liverpool fan,
and especially a Liverpool fan. A pleasure as always. This has been your Shankly Sessions look back at Liverpool over the past week. All the news, gossip, opinion, everything that's going on. Player watch. As always, we bring you previews, reviews. We do little documentaries and stuff like that on milestones, all that kind of stuff. Always good to have people on. Craig is going to be back with us as well. Yeah, we dropped the show there yesterday.
Who the fuck is that guy?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, he's back. He's back with
us. Love you, Craig. Love
you. Head over to YouTube, Dynamo Podcast Network, for all the videos of the show. Smash that subscribe and bell notification button. If you want to look up the show, the Upper Tier on Instagram, the Upper Tier on Facebook. And obviously, if you want to contact the show on Twitter, @SessionsShankly, you'll catch me and Dean over there on Twitter all the time. Hit us up. Obviously, let us know your comments down in the comment section of the video as well. Who do you want signed? Who do you think will go out? What's your opinion on Jordan Henderson?
Or how much would you pay for a date with me?
How much would you pay for a date with Dean so we can fund his trip over to the 2 friendlies?
No, the Friday to Monday, so we can go to the Jamie Webster gig on the Friday night as well.
Awesome. So yeah, that's all I have. That's been this week. A pleasure as always. Chat to you next week, buddy.
See you later, man. Take care.